The elevator at Nexus Tower was supposed to be empty at 2 a.m., but there she was, Tiffany Mitchell, security badge dangling from her janitor's uniform, mascara smeared down her cheeks as she clutched an eviction notice. She didn't even notice the man in the $10,000 suit watching her until he cleared his throat. "Rough night?" he asked, and when she looked up, she found herself staring into the coldest brown eyes she'd ever seen. They belonged to Jae-sung Park, the CEO whose wedding invitation was literally plastered on every billboard in Manhattan. What she didn't know was that in exactly 7 days, he'd pay her $50,000 to destroy that very wedding. What he didn't know was that she'd end up saving him from the biggest mistake of his life by kissing him in front of 300 guests, including his father, the most dangerous underground king in New York's Korean district. If you're ready for a romance that'll leave you breathless, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because this story is about to get wild. Drop a comment below telling me what you'd do if someone offered you $50,000 to crash their wedding. Now, let's dive in. Tiffany Mitchell had cleaned the executive floor of Nexus Tower for exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. She knew every scuff mark on the marble, every coffee stain the day shift missed, and definitely knew that CEOs didn't usually work at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Yet here was Jae-sung Park, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world, standing in his corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased Manhattan's glittering skyline. "You're crying," he said, not a question but an observation, delivered with the same detachment he probably used to fire people. Tiffany quickly wiped her face with the back of her hand, accidentally smearing more mascara. "Sorry, Mr. Park. I'll clean your office and get out of your way. No need to apologize for being human." He loosened his tie. "Though I am curious why my janitor is having a breakdown in my elevator." His janitor. Like she was property. Tiffany felt her spine straighten despite everything. "With all due respect, sir, I'm not your anything. I'm an employee of Build Bright Cleaning Services, contracted to clean this building. And my personal life is none of your business." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Amusement? It was gone before she could tell. "Fair enough." He moved his desk, pulled out a crystal decanter filled with amber liquid. "Want a drink? You look like you could use one." "I don't drink with people who could fire me with a phone call." "I can't fire you. You just explained you don't work for me." He poured 2 glasses anyway, sliding one across his massive oak desk. "Besides, Build Bright's contract is ironclad for another 2 years. Trust me, I've tried to break it." Despite herself, Tiffany found her feet moving toward the desk. The eviction notice in her pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Why would you want to break a cleaning contract?" "Because the owner is my future father-in-law, and every month I write that check, it feels like I'm paying him to own another piece of my soul." The bitterness in his voice could have curdled milk. Tiffany picked up the glass, sniffed it. Whiskey, the expensive kind that burned smooth. "Sounds like you're having a rough night too." "You could say that." He took a long sip, then laughed, a sound devoid of any actual humor. "I'm getting married in 7 days to a woman who's currently in Milan, supposedly at a fashion show, but actually in bed with her ex-boyfriend." Tiffany nearly choked on her whiskey. "What?" "Oh, she doesn't know, I know. She's very careful. Deletes texts, uses encrypted apps, pays for everything in cash." He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. It was slightly blurry, taken through a restaurant window, but clear enough, a stunning woman with porcelain skin laughing as a man who definitely wasn't Jae-sung fed her oysters. "My private investigator sent this an hour ago. So call off the wedding." If only it were that simple. He refilled his glass. "You know what my father does for a living, Ms. Mitchell?" Everyone knew about Solomon Park, though nobody talked about it openly. He owned half the Korean businesses in Queens and Flushing, ran the most exclusive import operation on the East Coast, and had judges on speed dial. Some called him a businessman. Others whispered the word kingpin when they thought no one was listening. "I've heard rumors," Tiffany said carefully. "My marriage to Yoon-ji isn't just a wedding. It's a merger. Her father controls the ports, mine controls the distribution. Together, they'll own the entire Eastern Seaboard's luxury goods market. All of it completely legal, of course." The sarcasm dripped from that last sentence. "If I call off this wedding, best case scenario, I lose my position at Nexus. Worst case, I start a war between 2 very powerful, very dangerous families. But she's cheating on you. And has been for months. But proving it to my father? To hers? They'd say the photos are fake, that I'm getting cold feet, that I'm weak. He studied her face with an intensity that made her shift in her seat. You know what I need? I need her to be the one to call it off. Good luck with that. No woman in her right mind would give up marrying into the Park empire. Not unless she was humiliated. Not unless I gave her a reason to hate me so publicly, so dramatically, that she'd have no choice but to leave me at the altar. His eyes hadn't left her face. How's $50,000 sound? Tiffany's heart stopped. Excuse me, $50,000. Cash. To be my date to the wedding and make sure Yoonji calls it off. You want me to, what? Seduce you at your own wedding. I want you to create a scandal so perfect that Yoonji saves face by leaving me, not the other way around. She keeps her pride, tells everyone I'm a cheating bastard who humiliated her, and the merger falls apart without anyone starting a war. Tiffany stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. You're insane. I'm desperate. He opened his desk drawer, pulled out a stack of bills that made her mouth go dry. This is $10,000. A down payment. You get the rest after the wedding falls apart. I'm a janitor from Brooklyn. Your world, they'd smell me coming from a mile away. My world is full of people pretending to be something they're not. You just need to pretend better. He leaned back in his chair. Besides, you're not just any janitor from Brooklyn. You're Tiffany Mitchell, Georgetown Law, class of 2019, graduated magna cum laude before your mother got sick and medical bills destroyed your career before it started. Her blood turned to ice. You investigated me? I investigate everyone who has access to my office after hours. Don't look so shocked, it's standard security protocol. He gestured to the stack of money. $50,000 would clear your mother's remaining medical debt and pay your rent for a year. Unless you prefer eviction. The eviction notice seemed to burn through her pocket. Her landlord had given her 5 days. 5 days before she and her 16-year-old sister Keisha were on the street. This is crazy, she whispered. This is business. He stood, moved around the desk until he was standing right in front of her. This close, she could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive that made her head spin. 7 days, Ms. Mitchell. You come to a few pre-wedding events, make Yoonji jealous enough to cause a scene, and we both get what we want. You get financial freedom. I get actual freedom. And if she doesn't take the bait? If she just ignores me? Then we escalate. But trust me, Yoonji doesn't ignore threats to what she considers hers. Even if she doesn't want it. He picked up the money, held it out to her. What do you say? Tiffany looked at the money, then at him. In the dim office light, with the city sparkling behind him, Jae-sung Park looked less like a CEO and more like a man drowning in slow motion. She recognized the desperation in his eyes because she saw it every morning in her own mirror. I don't even have anything to wear to fancy events. I'll handle that. And my sister, I can't leave her alone at night. Bring her. We'll say she's your cousin visiting from out of town. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. But logic hadn't paid the bills in years. She took the money. The boutique on Fifth Avenue didn't even have a name, just a black door with a golden number. Jae-sung had texted her the address with strict instructions. Arrive at 10 a.m., ask for Madame Liu, don't argue with anything she suggests. What he hadn't mentioned was that Madame Liu was a 5'0" Korean woman in her 70s who looked at Tiffany like she was both a challenge and a masterpiece waiting to happen. You have good bones, Madame Liu said, circling Tiffany like a shark. Strong shoulders, long legs, excellent posture despite trying to hide it. Why do you make yourself small? I don't. You do. You slouch, you wear clothes 2 sizes too big, you hide. She snapped her fingers and 2 assistants appeared from nowhere. We fix this. Mr. Park says you need to be unforgettable. I never disappoint, Mr. Park. For the next 4 hours, Tiffany was measured, draped, pinned, and transformed. Dresses appeared as if by magic. A midnight blue cocktail dress that hugged curves she'd forgotten she had. A champagne-colored gown that made her brown skin glow. A power suit in deep burgundy that screamed dangerous elegance. I can't afford any of this, Tiffany said, looking at herself in a floor-length mirror. The woman staring back looked like she belonged on magazine covers, not mopping floors. Mr. Park's account, Madame Lu said dismissively. Though between us, this is the most interesting request he's had. Usually, it's boring business where for boring business women. You've dressed other women for him? Child, I've been dressing the Park family for 30 years. I dressed his mother for her funeral, God rest her soul. I dressed him for his first day of school in America when he barely spoke English and the other kids called him names I won't repeat. Her eyes softened. That boy has been wearing masks his whole life. Maybe it's time someone helped him take them off. Before Tiffany could respond, the door chimed and in walked Trouble wearing designer heels. Yoonji Kim was even more stunning in person than in photos, sharp cheekbones, glossy black hair that fell to her waist, and the kind of casual elegance that came from never having to check a price tag. Her eyes swept over Tiffany with dismissive precision. Madame Lu, I need the red Valentino altered for tomorrow's charity luncheon. She paused, tilting her head. I don't recognize you. Are you new? She's a client, Madame Lu said smoothly. Ms. Mitchell, meet Ms. Kim. Yoonji's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. Mitchell? You're not related to the Mitchells from Greenwich, are you? Tiffany almost laughed. The only thing she shared with Connecticut's elite was a last name. Different Mitchells. Oh. The disappointment in that single syllable could have cut glass. Well, Madame Lu does occasionally take charity cases. How generous of someone to sponsor you. The condescension lit a fire in Tiffany's chest. Actually, I'm personal shopping for an event. Mr. Park's pre-wedding reception, I believe. He insisted I look my best since I'll be his +1. The temperature in the boutique dropped 10 degrees. Jaesung's +1? Yoonji's voice could have frozen hell. That's impossible. I'm his fiancé. Oh, I know who you are. Tiffany let a smile play at her lips, channeling every courtroom drama she'd studied in law school. He's mentioned you. Briefly. Madame Lu coughed. It sounded suspiciously like hidden laughter. And you are? Yoonji stepped closer, and Tiffany caught a whiff of perfume that made her head spin. Someone who actually shows up when she says she will. Tiffany grabbed her purse, nodded to Madame Lu. Please have everything sent to the address Mr. Park provided. I have a meeting with him for lunch. She walked out, leaving Yoonji standing there with her mouth slightly open. Tiffany made it half a block before her hands started shaking. She'd just antagonized one of the most powerful women in New York. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jaesung. Yoonji just called me 17 times. What did you do? Tiffany typed back. You said make her jealous. Mission accomplished. 3 dots appeared, then, lunch. Now, Koi on Madison. We need to strategize before she burns down the city. Are you Team Tiffany yet? Because things are about to get even more complicated. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and share it with your friends who love a good romance with a twist. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's see what happens at this lunch meeting. Koi was the kind of restaurant where they didn't put prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Jaesung was already waiting in a private booth when Tiffany arrived, and he wasn't alone. The woman sitting across from him had Jaesung's sharp cheekbones and intense eyes, but her expression held warmth where his held walls. She stood when Tiffany approached, extending a manicured hand. You must be the woman who just made Yoonji threaten to call off the wedding. Her smile was genuinely delighted. I'm Harper, Jaesung's sister, and I think I love you already. Harper, Jaesung warned. What? Someone finally rattled that ice princess? I want to buy her a drink. Several drinks. Harper pulled Tiffany into the booth beside her, effectively blocking her brother's glare. Tell me everything. Did she actually stutter? Please tell me she stuttered. She didn't stutter, but her left eye twitched. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Harper flagged down a waiter. Champagne. The good stuff. We're celebrating. We're not celebrating, Jaesung said. Yoonji's now demanding to know who Tiffany is, why I'm bringing her to events, and whether I'm having an affair. Are you denying it? I'm not confirming or denying anything. Let her draw her own conclusions. Harper studied Tiffany with interest. You know, when my brother said he was hiring someone to help with his Yoonji problem, I expected some actress or model. But you're a janitor? Tiffany supplied. Real. You're real. That's what's going to drive Yoonji insane. She can compete with another socialite, but someone who doesn't play by her rules? Someone who doesn't care about the game. Harper grinned. You're perfect. The waiter arrived with champagne and menus. Tiffany opened hers and nearly passed out. $40 for a salad? Order whatever you want, Jae-sung said, apparently reading her expression. Consider it a business expense. Does your father know about this? Harper asked, sipping her champagne. Father's in Seoul until the day before the wedding. By the time he gets back, it'll be too late to stop anything. And if he finds out you hired someone, then I'll deal with the consequences. The steel in his voice suggested those consequences would be severe. But it's better than spending my life married to someone who's in love with another man. Harper's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and laughed. Oh, this is good. Yeon-ji just posted a photo of herself at Madame Lou's with the caption, when you have to remind certain people of their place. She's rattled. Let me see. Jae-sung took the phone, and his jaw tightened. She's wearing my mother's necklace. The one she borrowed for safekeeping. Mom's sapphire? Harper's voice turned sharp. That was supposed to stay in the family. Everything Yeon-ji touches becomes hers eventually. He handed the phone back. Tiffany, there's a charity luncheon tomorrow at the Ritz. Black tie starts at noon. Yeon-ji will be there with her court of vipers. Think you can handle it? Will you be there? I'll arrive late. Business meeting that will conveniently run over. He met her eyes. You'll be on your own for at least an hour. With a room full of people who'll know I don't belong there. You belong anywhere you decide to belong, Harper said firmly. Besides, I'll be there. Anyone gives you trouble, they answer to me. Harper runs the Park Foundation, Jae-sung explained. She's scarier than our father when she wants to be. I prefer effectively assertive. Harper raised her glass. To complicated plans and simple solutions. They clinked glasses, but Tiffany noticed Jae-sung barely touched his champagne. He was too busy watching the door, tension radiating from every line of his body. Expecting someone? She asked. Yeon-ji has a habit of showing up places she knows I'll be. Claims it's coincidence. As if summoned, the restaurant door opened. But it wasn't Yeon-ji who walked in. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made everyone turn to look. His suit was perfectly tailored, his fade fresh, and his smile could have powered half of Manhattan. When his eyes landed on their booth, that smile widened. Damon. Tiffany's voice came out strangled. Damon Hayes, her ex-boyfriend who dumped her the day after her mother's diagnosis, crossed the restaurant like he owned it. Which, knowing Damon's tech company had just gone public, he probably could. Tiffany Mitchell. He stopped at their booth, his eyes taking in her designer dress, the champagne, the company she was keeping. When I heard you were working as a janitor, I didn't believe it. But here you are, looking like you own the place. Damon. She kept her voice level, even as Harper's hand found hers under the table in silent support. What are you doing here? Business lunch. But this is better. His eyes shifted to Jae-sung. You're Solomon Park's son. We're actually finalizing a distribution deal with your father's company. Is that so? Jae-sung's voice could have frosted windows. Tiffany and I go way back. Georgetown law, right, baby? Before you dropped out. Before my mother got cancer and you decided sick girlfriends were too much trouble, Tiffany corrected. Harper's grip on her hand tightened. That's not fair. I had my company to think about. Investors don't like instability. Damon's charming mask slipped for a second. But look at you now. Playing dress-up with the Korean elite. Moving up in the world, huh? Watch your tone, Jae-sung said quietly. Dangerously. Damon laughed. Relax, man. I'm just surprised. Tiffany was always too proud to accept help. Remember, baby? You returned every gift I tried to give you when your mom got sick. Said you didn't need charity. I didn't need your charity. There's a difference. Right. But his is different. Damon gestured to Jae-sung. What makes Park money better than mine? The fact that it comes with respect, Jae-sung answered before Tiffany could. He stood and somehow made Damon's impressive height seem insignificant. Ms. Mitchell is my guest and a valued consultant for Nexus Industries. You'll speak to her with courtesy or not at all. Consultant. Damon's eyebrows shot up. Tiffany, you're consulting now? In what? Industrial cleaning. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Tiffany felt Harper tense beside her, saw Jae-sung's hands curl into fists. But this was her battle. She stood slowly, channeling every mock trial, every debate, every moment she'd commanded a courtroom before life derailed her dreams. Actually, Damon, I'm consulting on a merger. See, Jae-sung values my perspective precisely because I've been on the ground floor, literally. I understand how businesses actually run, not just how they look in spreadsheets. But you wouldn't understand that. You've never had to work for anything that wasn't handed to you by daddy's connections. Damon's face darkened. Careful, Tiffany. You're playing in leagues you don't understand. No, Damon. I'm playing in leagues you'll never reach. Because while you were so busy protecting your image when things got hard, I learned how to survive. And thriving? She picked up her champagne, took a deliberate sip. That comes next. This isn't over, Damon said to Jae-sung. Yes, it is. Jae-sung's voice held finality. Your distribution deal with my father's company? Consider it under review. We don't do business with people who lack basic decency. Damon's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then he turned and walked away, his shoulders rigid with anger. Harper burst into applause. That was beautiful. Like watching a master class in decimation. But Jae-sung was looking at Tiffany with something new in his expression. He hurt you. It wasn't a question. He was a coward when I needed him most. But honestly, he did me a favor. I learned I was stronger alone than I ever was with him. You shouldn't have had to learn that lesson. Their eyes met and held. Something passed between them, understanding, maybe, or recognition. Two people who'd been abandoned by those who claimed to love them. Harper cleared her throat. So, about tomorrow's luncheon. Tiffany, we need to prep you on the guest list. These women are sharks, but predictable sharks. The moment broke. Jae-sung sat back down, pulling out his phone to show Tiffany photos of tomorrow's attendees. But his knee pressed against hers under the table, and he didn't move away. Neither did she. The Ritz-Carlton's grand ballroom looked like something out of a fever dream, crystal chandeliers, gold-leafed everything, and enough flowers to stock a botanical garden. Tiffany stood at the entrance in her champagne dress, holding a clutch that cost more than her laptop, trying not to hyperventilate. Breathe, Harper said beside her, stunning in emerald green. They're just people with better credit limits. People who could destroy my life with one phone call. So could I, technically. But I like you, so you're safe. Harper linked their arms. Come on. Let's go make some enemies. The room was full of women who looked like they'd stepped out of Vogue, each one more polished than the last, all eyeing Tiffany like she was either prey or competition. Possibly both. Yoonji held court near the fountain, surrounded by her inner circle. She wore white, of course she did, the bride-to-be, and the sapphire necklace that had belonged to Jae-sung's mother glinted at her throat. Harper. Her smile was razor-sharp. How lovely. And you brought. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name yesterday. Tiffany Mitchell. Tiffany extended her hand, which Yoonji ignored. Right. The woman who claims to be Jae-sung's consultant. She said consultant, like others might say prostitute. What exactly do you consult on? Efficiency optimization and resource management, Tiffany replied smoothly, remembering her law school economics courses. Particularly in identifying redundancies that drain company resources without adding value. Several women tittered. The implication wasn't lost on anyone. Yoonji's smile tightened. How fascinating. And where did you study business? Georgetown Law. Law? But you're not a lawyer. Life had other plans. Tiffany accepted a champagne flute from a passing waiter. But legal training provides excellent perspective on contract negotiations. Like prenuptials, for instance. The room went quiet. Prenuptials are for people who plan to fail, Yoonji said coolly. Or for people smart enough to protect their assets. But I suppose when you're marrying for love, that doesn't matter, does it? Yoonji's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went white, then red. Excuse me. She walked away quickly, her heels clicking against marble. What just happened? Harper whispered. If I had to guess? Her boyfriend in Milan is wondering why she's not answering his calls. Harper grinned. You know about Milan? Your brother was very thorough in his briefing. They spent the next hour navigating the social minefield. Tiffany discovered she had an unexpected talent for backhanded compliments and strategic small talk. Law school had taught her to read people, to find weaknesses and pressure points. These women were no different from hostile witnesses, all bluster hiding insecurity. She was actually starting to enjoy herself when Yunji returned, eyes glittering with malice. "Ladies," she announced to her circle, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I've just learned something fascinating about Ms. Mitchell." The room quieted again. "She's a janitor. She literally cleans toilets at Nexus Tower." Yunji's smile was triumphant. "Isn't that right, Tiffany?" Every eye in the room turned to her. Tiffany felt Harper tense beside her, ready to intervene. But Tiffany had faced worse humiliation than this. She'd held her mother's hand through chemo, worked 3 jobs to keep her sister in school, survived. "You're right," she said clearly. "I do work for Bill Bright Cleaning Services. I've cleaned every floor of Nexus Tower, including the executive bathrooms. Would you like to know what I've learned?" Yunji blinked, thrown by the easy admission. "I've learned that the most powerful people in the city are also the messiest. They leave their secrets in trash cans, their affairs in deleted emails that IT can still retrieve, their real selves in the things they think no one will notice." Tiffany stepped closer to Yunji. "I've learned that everyone has dirt. The only question is who's willing to get their hands dirty to find it." "Is that a threat?" "It's an observation. Though if we're sharing observations, that's an interesting necklace. Sapphires that color are rare. Jaesung's mother had excellent taste." Yunji's hand went to her throat. "He gave it to me." "Did he? Or did you take it from his apartment when he wasn't home? Because Harper seems surprised to see it on you." Harper played along perfectly. "I am curious how you got mother's necklace, Yunji." "Jaesung told me it was in the family safe." "He gave it to me," Yunji repeated, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "Then you won't mind if I ask him about it when he arrives," Tiffany said sweetly. "He should be here any minute." As if on cue, the ballroom doors opened. But it wasn't Jaesung who entered. It was Solomon Park. The entire room seemed to inhale at once. Solomon Park commanded attention just by existing, silver hair slicked back, wearing a suit that looked like it was sewn from shadows, eyes that missed nothing. He wasn't supposed to be back from Seoul for 3 more days. "Father." Yunji recovered first, gliding over to kiss his cheek. "What a wonderful surprise. I thought you were." Plans changed. His voice was cultured, smooth, with just a hint of accent. His eyes found Tiffany immediately. "You must be Ms. Mitchell." Tiffany's blood turned to ice. He knew who she was. How did he know who she was? "Yes, sir." He approached slowly, and the crowd parted like the Red Sea. "My son speaks highly of you. Your son is very kind." "My son is many things. Kind isn't usually one of them." He studied her with the intensity of a predator deciding if prey was worth the effort. "You're not what I expected." "I rarely am." Something that might have been approval flickered in his eyes. Then he turned to Yunji. "Where's my son?" "Running late from a meeting," Yunji said quickly. "You know how he is about business." "I do. I also know he's been avoiding you." Solomon's tone was mild, but Yunji flinched. "Perhaps Ms. Mitchell knows where he is?" It was a test. Tiffany could feel it. "He's meeting with the Takashi Group about their expansion into the East Coast market," she said calmly. He didn't want to be late to such an important negotiation. Solomon's eyebrows rose slightly. The Takashi Group was real. Tiffany had seen the meeting on Jaesung's calendar while cleaning his office last week. "You know his schedule?" "I know everything that affects Nexus Industries' operational efficiency." "And my son's marriage? Does that affect operational efficiency?" The room held its breath. "Only if it's a distraction from the company's growth," Tiffany replied. Solomon Park smiled. It was terrifying. "Indeed. Yunji, we need to discuss the wedding arrangements. Privately." He turned back to Tiffany. "Ms. Mitchell, please tell my son I'll expect him for dinner tonight. 8 o'clock. Bring your appetite." It took Tiffany a moment to realize he was inviting her too. After Solomon and Yunji left, Harper grabbed Tiffany's arm. "We need to call Jaesung. Now." They found a quiet corner, and Harper dialed her brother. "Father's back," she said without preamble. "He's here. He knows about Tiffany." Silence on the other end, then, "Put her on." Harper handed over the phone. "Did he threaten you?" Jae-sung's voice was tight with concern. No. He invited me to dinner. Don't go. He didn't phrase it as a request. Tiffany, you don't understand. My father doesn't do social dinners. He does interrogations with appetizers. Then I better not go on an empty stomach. She tried for levity, but her hands were shaking. What does he know? Everything, probably. He has sources everywhere. A pause. I'm on my way. Don't leave Harper's side. He hung up and Tiffany handed the phone back. So, Harper said with false cheer. Want to know what wine pairs best with potential murder? Solomon Park's penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of a building that scraped the sky. Everything was black marble and gold accents, with art that belonged in museums and a view that made Manhattan look like a jewelry box. Tiffany arrived with Jae-sung, who hadn't let go of her hand since picking her up. You don't have to do this, he said for the 10th time as they rode the private elevator. Yes, I do. Your father doesn't strike me as someone who accepts rain checks. He's testing something. I just don't know what yet. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. Solomon stood by the windows, watching the sunset paint the city orange. Punctual. I appreciate that. He turned, his eyes going straight to their joined hands. Welcome to my home, Ms. Mitchell. It's beautiful, Tiffany said honestly. Beautiful things often hide ugly truths. He gestured to the dining room where a table was set for 4. Yeonji will join us shortly. She's fixing her makeup. Apparently, our conversation this afternoon was emotional. Jae-sung's hand tightened on Tiffany's. What did you say to her? He asked. I asked her about Milan. Specifically, about her frequent trips to see her cousin. Solomon poured wine with practiced ease. Imagine my surprise when I learned her cousin is actually her ex-boyfriend. The temperature in the room dropped. You knew. Jae-sung's voice was deadly quiet. I've known for months. I was curious how long it would take you to discover it. Or if you'd care enough to look. And you still wanted me to marry her? Want? No. Business required it. Or so I thought. Solomon handed Tiffany a glass of wine. Then Ms. Mitchell appeared, and suddenly you're showing initiative. Making moves. Acting like someone who actually wants to control his own life. Don't put this on her. I'm not. I'm thanking her. Solomon raised his glass to Tiffany. You've done in a week what I've been trying to do for years, wake my son up. I don't understand, Tiffany said carefully. My son has been sleepwalking through life since his mother died. Following orders, taking the path of least resistance, accepting whatever was handed to him. Solomon's eyes were sharp as broken glass. Then you show up and suddenly he's hiring private investigators, planning elaborate schemes, fighting for something. Even if that something is just to not marry Yeonji. The elevator chimed. Yeonji emerged, and she looked like she'd been crying. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were puffy. Solomon. Jae-sung. Her voice was hoarse. She didn't acknowledge Tiffany at all. They sat for dinner, Solomon at the head, Jae-sung and Tiffany on one side, Yeonji alone on the other. The food was exquisite, but it might as well have been cardboard for all Tiffany tasted. So, Ms. Mitchell, Solomon began as the soup course was served. Tell me about your family. My sister Keisha is 16, a straight-A student at Bronx Science. My mother passed last year. Cancer, wasn't it? Aggressive lymphoma. Tiffany's spoon stilled. Yes. Medical bills are crushing. I imagine that's why you left law school. Among other reasons. Must have been difficult, going from a promising legal career to cleaning offices. Every job has dignity if you do it well. Spoken like someone who's never had choices. Yeonji's voice was bitter. Must be nice, playing dress-up in someone else's life. Better than living a lie in my own, Tiffany shot back. Enough. Solomon's voice cut through the tension. Yeonji, tell me about Milan. She went white. I told you, I was at Fashion Week. With Matteo Romano. We're friends. You're lovers. Have been since before you agreed to marry my son. Solomon's tone was conversational, like discussing the weather. I have photos, hotel receipts, credit card statements. Would you like to see them? It's not Jae-sung and I. We have an understanding. Do you? Solomon turned to his son. Did you understand that your fiancée was planning to continue her affair after marriage? I understood that we were both trapped in a business arrangement neither of us wanted, Jae-sung said evenly. Then why not say so? Because you made it clear that this marriage was non-negotiable. Solomon laughed, actually laughed. Non-negotiable? Boy, everything is negotiable if you're willing to pay the price. But you never even tried to negotiate. Until her. He nodded at Tiffany. This is ridiculous, Yunji stood abruptly. I won't sit here and be humiliated. Sit down. Solomon's voice was soft, but carried the weight of command. We're not done. She sat. Your father needs this merger to keep his ports running. Without my distribution network, he's got ships full of cargo and nowhere to send them. Solomon sipped his wine. But what if I told you I found alternative ports? Better rates, less federal oversight, run by the Nigerians in Newark. Yunji's face went from white to green. You're bluffing. Am I? Ms. Mitchell, what's the name of the company that just acquired the Newark shipping facility? Tiffany's mind raced. She'd seen it in the business section last week while reading newspapers on her break. Apex Logistics. Run by David Adeyemi. Solomon smiled approvingly. See? Even the janitor knows. Your father's monopoly is already broken, Yunji. This marriage was his last attempt to stay relevant. Then why go through with any of this? Yunji demanded. To see if my son had enough spine to stop it himself. Solomon looked at Jae-sung. You hired Ms. Mitchell to sabotage your own wedding rather than simply tell me no. That's either cowardice or brilliance, and I haven't decided which. Does it matter? Jae-sung asked. Either way, the wedding's off. Is it? Solomon turned to Yunji. What do you think? Should we call this off? Yunji looked between them all, her perfect composure finally cracking. You all think you're so clever. The grieving widower, the reluctant prince, the pretty puppet. Her eyes landed on Tiffany. But you're all just playing games while real life happens around you. She stood again, and this time Solomon didn't stop her. The wedding is off. Tell whoever you want, whatever story makes you feel better. She pulled off her engagement ring, a diamond the size of a small planet, and set it on the table. But know this, I loved him once. Before the families and the business and the expectations. I loved him, and he never even noticed. She walked to the elevator, her heels echoing in the silence. Yunji, Jae-sung called out. She turned, and for once, her expression was completely honest. I hope she's worth it, Jae-sung. I hope she's worth burning it all down. The elevator doors closed, and she was gone. Solomon stood, walked to the window. Well, that was more dramatic than expected. You orchestrated all of this, Jae-sung accused. I orchestrated nothing. I simply allowed events to unfold. He turned back to them. Ms. Mitchell, what are your intentions toward my son? Father. I asked her. Tiffany met his gaze steadily. I was hired to do a job. That job is now complete. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you two look far from finished. She became acutely aware that Jae-sung's hand had found hers again under the table. I should go, she said. Yes, you probably should. Solomon walked over, handed her a business card. My personal lawyer. He'll set up a trust for your sister's education. Consider it a consulting fee. I can't accept. You can and you will. You've solved a problem I've been trying to untangle for months. Besides, intelligent young women should have options. His eyes softened fractionally. Your mother would be proud of what you've sacrificed for your family. Tears pricked Tiffany's eyes. Thank you. Jae-sung, take Ms. Mitchell home. We'll discuss the business implications tomorrow. In the elevator, Tiffany finally let out the breath she'd been holding. Your father is terrifying. He liked you. How could you tell? You're still alive. She laughed, then stopped when she realized he wasn't entirely joking. What happens now? She asked as they reached the lobby. Now? Now I owe you $40,000. The wedding's off. That was the deal. Yes, it was. But the way he was looking at her suggested deals were the last thing on his mind. Oh my goodness, are you feeling the tension? Because I definitely am. If you need to know what happens next between Tiffany and Jae-sung, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on because part 2 is coming soon. Drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen next. Will Tiffany take the money and walk away? Or is there something more brewing between our CEO and our fierce queen? Like this video if you're Team Tiffany and Jae-sung, and share it with your besties who love a good romance. 3 weeks later. The Nexus Tower elevator was empty at 2 a.m., just like it had been that first night. But this time, Tiffany wasn't crying. She was reviewing her first semester law school readmission papers, funded by the consulting fee that had mysteriously doubled in her bank account. The elevator dinged at the executive floor. The doors opened, and there he was. "You're back," Jae-sung said, and the relief in his voice made her heart skip. "I still work here, remember? Bill Bright has that ironclad contract." "I meant back in the building. You've been avoiding the executive floor." She had been. After that dinner 3 weeks ago, after he'd driven her home and walked her to her door and looked at her like he wanted to say something important but couldn't find the words, she'd needed space to think. "I thought it would be better. Cleaner. The job's done, the wedding's off, you're free." "Am I?" He stepped into the elevator, pressed the button to hold the doors closed. "Because I don't feel free. I feel like I'm missing something. Someone." Jae-sung. "I know what we had was fake. A business arrangement. But somewhere between that first night and my father's dinner, it became real for me." Tiffany's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Your world and mine are the same world. Just different floors of the same building." He stepped closer. "You asked me once what happens when the elevator stops between floors. When you're neither up nor down, just suspended." "I remember. I think that's where we are now. Between floors. Between what was supposed to be and what could be." His hand came up to cup her face. "The question is, do we press the emergency button and get out, or do we see where this goes? And if it goes nowhere, then at least we'll know." "But Tiffany, what if it goes everywhere?" She thought about the last 3 weeks. How empty they'd felt. How she'd caught herself looking for him in the building's reflection, checking her phone for texts that never came because they'd both been too careful to cross the line they'd drawn. "I don't do casual," she warned. "Neither do I. And I'm starting law school again in the fall. I'll hire you as Nexus's in-house counsel when you graduate." "That's nepotism. That's planning ahead." She laughed, and he smiled, a real smile, not the corporate mask he usually wore. "So what now?" she asked. "Now? Now I'd really like to kiss you without it being part of some scheme to ruin my wedding." "Your wedding's already ruined." "Best money I ever spent." This time, when he kissed her, it wasn't for show. It wasn't to make anyone jealous or prove a point. It was just them, suspended between floors, finding each other in the space between what was and what could be. When they finally broke apart, the elevator had started moving again, carrying them up. "Your father's going to have opinions about this," Tiffany warned. "My father's the one who gave me your new address. How do you think I knew you were here tonight?" She pulled back. "Solomon Park is playing matchmaker? He said anyone who could go toe-to-toe with him at dinner deserved a second chance to put me in my place. I always did like your father. Terrifying tends to grow on people." The elevator reached the top floor, the penthouse level that Jae-sung had been renovating. "Want to see something?" he asked. He led her out onto the private terrace. Manhattan sprawled below them, glittering and alive. But what caught her attention was the small table set with 2 cups and a thermos. "Hot chocolate," she guessed. "Coffee. The good stuff from that shop you stop at every morning on 3rd Avenue. You know where I get my coffee?" "I know a lot of things. Like how you hum while you work, usually Beyoncé. How you leave notes for the day's shift about which executives are having bad days and might need extra kindness. How you've been accepted to 3 law schools, but haven't responded because you're scared to hope again. Have you been stalking me?" "I've been paying attention. There's a difference." She accepted the coffee, let its warmth seep through her. "This is crazy. You know that, right? Crazy was hiring you to ruin my wedding. This is the sanest thing I've done in years." Down below, the city hummed with life. Lives intersecting, diverging, running parallel. Each light in each window a story, a possibility, a choice. "Okay," she said. Okay, let's see where this elevator goes." He pulled her close, and she rested her head on his shoulder. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. A plane blinked across the sky. The city breathed around them, endless and impossible, and theirs. "For what it's worth," Jae-sung said quietly, "I'm glad you kissed me that day. Even if it was just for the job." Tiffany smiled against his shoulder. "Want to know a secret? Always. That kiss was never just for the job." This time when he kissed her, the city lights blurred and the world narrowed to just this. Just them, just now, just the beautiful possibility of everything that came next. Because sometimes the best love stories begin with a lie that becomes the truth. Sometimes salvation comes dressed as sabotage. And sometimes, just sometimes, the elevator takes you exactly where you're meant to be, even if it's not the floor you pressed.